We have two volunteers today. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
My name is Olivia. I'm a junior studying broadcast journalism, and I was selected because I am Jewish.
She was selected because she's Jewish. Yes.
My name is Adriana. I'm from Panama, senior, majoring in marketing with a minor in supply chain and IST. And I don't know why I was chosen to be
You were
honest.
chosen because you were not Jewish. All right.
I was, yeah.
All right. So, listen. So today's class is called Those Jews, okay? And I want to just have I want to kind of lay it out quickly, and then I just want to have a conversation with the two of you, okay? And this class, hang on. This class was really inspired by the article you all read for the quiz, the one that was from the New York Times. And I was just sitting in my office the other day and just thinking, I just want to have a conversation with a couple of people about this, okay? So if you go, first off, hang on. So anti-Semitism it's the longest hatred. Okay, it's recognized as the longest hatred. I mean, it's really we're looking at 2,000 years and beyond of hatred of people of Jewish ancestry. Okay, I could go into what I think is the origin of that, but I don't really need to. It doesn't matter. He doesn't. Okay. Anyway, this is from. So when I see references, so when you think about Nazi Germany, there was no, what we typically call the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, and Jewish people weren't the only people who were killed, murdered. But when we think about the Holocaust, there's nothing really in human history like that so many people were killed in such a short period of time, so systematically. And Jewish people were, of all the people who were killed, Jews were killed with a distinct idea to eradicate all Jews underneath the political umbrella of the lands that were controlled by the Nazis, okay? And you just don't see that anywhere in history. And so have you both watched, you've seen footage from the Holocaust, right? So when I see this was the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally from several years ago, and these are, the Star of David, right? I mean, this is a symbol here. So, unite the right, and we're going to come out, and we're just going to really attack, and we're going to, what that stands for, right? It's not they didn't put that up there because they're Jewish. They put that up there because of a hatred of Jews. And you notice there are no KKK symbols on there. There are no anti-black symbols. It's anti-Jewish symbols. And so, go to the next slide. Here are just some folks from this. Gathering, and look, you have this you have the swastika, right? And I think, the swastika, do you know what that represents, right? You just see what happened in Germany with the Nazis, and he's like, holy shit, seriously? And then the next slide, and look at the guys doing the symbol. Here's another guy with a swastika. And you have the Confederate flag, of course, which in itself is just deeply disturbing as well. But today we're talking about anti-Semitism. And it's here, y'all, less than so 80 years ago, the world experienced one of the most horrific genocides, mass killings that any human being could ever imagine. And here we have people using the symbol of the people who committed that genocide and that killing, okay? So, some 11 million people died, about 6 million people who were Jewish. It's oh my God. So I see that and I think, are you for real, right? Okay, next slide. These are some of the modern day symbols that far-right groups are using. Many of these are drawn from German lore, from ancient German, ruins and so on, right? So people don't use the swastika, they use other symbols. And next slide. And I just like a couple things. That Jews are targeted more than any other religious groups. I know that there are a lot of religious groups that want to kind of get in on this, right? But they want to that have also been targeted. But Jews, by far and away, targeted more than other religious groups. And anti-Semitic incidents are at record levels here in the United States. Okay, so now I want to start with you, Olivia, right? As someone who's Jewish, like, how do you manage? How do you manage this in your mind as someone? And I know you're not particularly. Do you go to synagogue? I mean, you're very liberal and you're very.
I go to synagogue for the holidays, but that's pretty much it. So occasionally for other times, but mostly just the holidays.
Okay, but how do you manage this in your mind?
I think for me, it's kind of the idea of like, this is what happened to the Jews in the past was terrible, and like no one should experience it. But I think it's getting better in terms of like how kids are being treated because they're Jewish. Like I feel like the kids I went to high school and a bunch of my friends here that are Jewish, like they never really experienced the anti-Semitism. So I feel like it's getting better, but it doesn't make up for what they did in the past was terrible and should never have happened in the first place.
So the idea that hate crimes, the Jews are as a religion, right? Because Judaism, being Jewish, it's like there's the cultural reference, there's the religious reference. If you're very Orthodox, then there's the racial reference, right? But that wouldn't include you. So how the crimes are like at an all-time high, right? Okay, so they're getting better, but how do you manage it in your mind that being Jewish and this is the experience and these folks out there are still holding on to this and the hatred of Jews?
I think that the hatred is ridiculous. Like it happened many, many years ago, and it, like why it happened, I get, but I think that at some point people need to not move on and forget about it, but like accept the idea that the Jewish people, there's still Jewish people here, and they're not all terrible people, and that they should be treated like humans rather than how they were treated back then.
Okay, so let me be clear, right? So what you're saying is people, this hatred of Jews, people need to get past that.
Yes.
Because Jews are all around us.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is, okay, I buy that, but they're not. And so, I mean, many people are, right? Most people are, but other people would love to be rid of all Jews still. The ideology and the ideas and the practices of the Nazis have not, they've not been swept under the table. There are still people who think that you should not even exist. Like, how do you manage that, or do you not think about it?
I mean, I think about it a little bit, but to me, it's kind of like those people are just, I guess I don't think about it as much as like maybe you do, or like someone like the Nazi supporters do think about it, but to me it's just kind of like, just I kind of go on with my life. And I don't think about it that much.
Okay, so it's like a lot of other things in this class that we bring up. Like when we had the conversation about slavery, we bring it up, but we don't really talk about it. Right?
Exactly,
I mean, we bring it up, but people aren't really thinking about it, right? So let me ask you this, and then I want to go to Adriana. So there's a reemergence of neo-Nazi groups, really all over the world, right? But in particular in the United States and in particular in Europe, okay? Neo-Nazi groups that are just the same thing. The Sieg Heil salute, the one thing after another, they're reading, supporting, and believing that Hitler was right, which you see, right? And which then culminates into attacks on Jewish communities, attacks on synagogues, and this emergence. So you're saying, like, yeah, I don't really think about it, and I'm saying, dude, this is really there. It's not even underground anymore. It's like coming right to the surface, where you have these gatherings of neo-Nazis throughout Europe, and thousands of people are showing up. So like how do you say?
I think like hearing from like you say like it's still a thing and like it's more on the surface than I realize kind of makes me a little like afraid of like where these groups of people are going to go next. Are they going to try to do something similar like they did in the past? But it is scary to me to think about it now that you like kind of put in perspective how close in like it is to me now.
Yeah, so listen, my intention isn't to say, hey, let's take Olivia and let's say make her, she's like living her life and like, okay, it's good. I'm not really thinking about a lot of stuff. I'm doing what I do and so on, right? I'm thinking about, I got to take the Social 19 quiz shortly, you know, whatever, right? It's a nice day, you're going to do something. But my intention is not to say, oh, but you really need to be afraid of neo-Nazis, right?
No, I totally get what you're saying about like what your role is and like how real this is.
Yeah, well, I like think, first off, for me, I'm just like, if anybody had any idea, if you watch as much footage as I've watched and read as much and seen photos as much as I've watched about the Holocaust, about what happened to Jewish people, I'd be like, the fact that anybody could in any way have any kind of symbol that's connected to Nazi Germany, it's beyond my even shallowest comprehension of what it means to be a human being, right?
I mean, what they did to the Jews back then was like terrible, and no one should be treated like the way the Jews were, but it's should just like, I don't know.
But the problem is, so Jewish people have this idea of like never forget, okay? Like never forget the Holocaust. You've heard this, right?
Yeah, I have.
So, but the reason is because this hasn't gone away, right? And Nazism wasn't the first time. Like Nazism was the first time Jews were persecuted. It's just the first time that people attempted to do so on such an extensive, radical, and systematic schedule, right? So it's like, yeah, but what are we moving on with, right? Like, because every time we turn around, there's new neo-Nazi groups that are emerging. People are still grabbing onto this ideology. So, Adriana, how much do you know about the Holocaust?
So, I mean, I've gone several times to the museum in DC. I love everything that has to do, like all the documentaries and everything about the Holocaust. I don't know if you've watched How to Become a Fascist in Netflix. It is really good, and it talks a lot about like the mind inside of Hitler and everyone. So I kind of, I have.
So what have you gotten from that? What have you gotten personally from it? What have you learned about yourself?
About myself.
Yeah, from studying the Holocaust.
I mean, what I've gotten from like the documentaries and everything, it's like I cannot believe that there are people that evil, like that they can unnecessarily, kill a bunch of people just because of their religion. And yeah, to me that's just insane. But
okay, so when you hear Jews, when you hear Jewish people say, so you watch plenty of footage, right? And there are plenty of people who think in these emergent movements that Hitler didn't go far enough and too bad that et cetera, right? What do you think? I'm trying to formulate a question here, right? So let me just say something, and I want you to respond to it, right? Hey, by the way, yo, I can't think. Okay. So, yo, bro, in the hat. Nobody turn toward anybody else, right? Right here. right here. Listen, first off, I'm going to swear for a second, all right? Like, what the fuck, dudes? We're talking about, this is the World War II Holocaust. Do you understand? Have you seen footage? Or do you understand what we're talking about? We're talking about finding every single Jewish person under the Nazi domain, getting them, putting them into work camps, working them to death, and then killing them. Turning them in developing this concept of an oven, where we take their bodies and we put their bodies into the crematories, into the ovens, and I've seen the ovens. I've been to death camps, I've seen the ovens, and then we're going to burn them and we're going to turn them into dust. So that the idea was that no single Jew would ever exist on the earth again. That was the goal, to eradicate the world of all Jews. Like, no, it's unfathomable that anybody could even imagine coming up with this. To do it systematically, one by one by one. It's like you can't even hold it. You can't even grasp onto this. And so my thinking is, so there are people who still have the idea that that's what we need to do. And you still have people, can you go back to the slide of the guys? And you still have these folks who are holding the symbols of the human beings who did that. Like, holy shit. Like, who are you? That you would hold that symbol of someone who committed really, in terms of time and space, probably, I think I could say, the most horrific, systematic slaughter of a human group ever to have been perpetuated on the planet. In just a few short years to kill that many human beings. So my question then, Adriana, to you is, like, how do you, they're here, right? This is an ideology that hasn't gone away. So as a Gentile, right, are you Catholic? Yeah. Okay, so in the Catholic Church was very much in collusion with the Nazis, and the Catholic Church was very much in collusion of hatred and all the working up with the Nazis, right? But just nonetheless, right? How do you just as a human being, like, how much attention do you pay to this? I'm asking. And you said, okay, well, I watch a lot of videos, I watch documentaries. And then the question is, what do you learn about yourself, about who you are, by watching that? Or by what I just said?
I mean, I don't know, I feel like I totally don't really, I'm super Catholic, and one, I cannot believe that the Catholic Church was so involved with everything that had to do with the Nazis.
Colluded, not so involved, colluded.
Okay.
I can show you lots of photos with Nazi officials and German and Catholic bishops and so on and so forth, right? Yep, but go ahead.
So, I mean, I've learned that I am, a good person. I don't know. It's like, I don't know how people can do that. Like, it's not even a thought in my mind. I don't know.
So let me give you this question, right? Let me give you this, and I'm going to bounce it to you also, right? The people who supported them, the people who carried out all the killing, they were just like this guy. If you knew this guy, if he was your neighbor, you'd be like, yeah, he's a nice guy. He's my neighbor. Yeah, he has a dog. His dog's name Rex. It's like whatever it is, right? They're just average, ordinary people. See all these folks right here? See, if Nazism came to the United States, a whole bunch of these people sitting right here would be right in line with it. And they'd be the ones carrying out the killing. They'd be the ones turning the ovens on. They'd be the one doing whatever they need to do. People would be in that place, because that's what human beings do when they are taught to hate. So then the question is, like, so they're all around. So now, what does that say? Like, what's this say? Like, there's no right answer. It's just like,
So I feel like humans are super, like, if we are taught to hate, we're taught to behave a certain way, and we have to maybe follow, like right now with Russian, and how the Russians don't want to go to war, but they follow Putin's orders and everything. It's like, I feel like we're so, I'm trying to think of the word in English, like, we can be easily manipulated.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's what happened with the
Okay, awesome.
so
And
including myself.
including yourself. Yep.
If I was raised and I was taught to hate and whatever, I feel like it would have been for me not another, like, I would, you know.
Yeah. This is why I talk about, look, every day of my life, I stand in front of a mirror and I say, Sam, in what ways are you being manipulated that you don't even realize, right? Just like the German people, right? Just like the American people in different ways, right? Olivia, what do you like when you hear what I just said about, it's like, about the gravity of this? Like, what comes to mind for you?
I think for me to like kind of realize that like anyone I have an interaction with or any person like sitting in this classroom could be out to get me just because I'm Jewish at any moment. Like, I know it's not gonna like, but in like, if you're taught to go say like your mission is to kill this group of people, you're gonna follow. Like, you're gonna do what you're told to do if you're raised that way. So I feel like it's very not concerning, but like scared to think about like any person I have any interaction, their mindset could be kill any Jewish person they see.
So let me ask you this, right? Does your synagogue, do you have like guards and stuff on all the high holy days? Or do you have procedures in place?
We do have extra security, but
Yeah.
nothing like out of like extreme. Like, we don't have people
Yeah.
like.
But
we
you
just
have security.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how many of you go to churches and you have security at your church because you need security there? Like, how many people have a Christian church and at your church you have security? Because just about every synagogue in the United States at this point in time
Exactly at this
has
point.
security, right? It's like, okay, this is the nature of what it means to be Jewish in the U.S. and anywhere. The same is true in Europe. And I don't think that, it's not that, do you have any idea where the hatred of Jews comes from?
I have no idea.
Do you have any idea? Do you ever think about it?
I was gonna ask you, like, why the Jews specifically? Why the hate towards them? And
Why the hate toward Jews, right? Have you wondered that?
I've wondered it, like, if I've been like studying it in schools or high school especially, I have wondered like why the Jews, why are they the targeted group of people?
Yeah, what did Jews do? Like, what have Jews done, right? And you know, by the way, when I think about being Jewish, if I was Jewish, I mean, I'm named after my mom's Jewish gynecologist his name was Shmuel. Shmuel is Samuel in Jewish, so I guess that means something. But if I were Jewish, I would say, I would look at Israel, for example. So listen to this. So look, I can have, I do geopolitical stuff, right? So I have a critique of Israel that I can go up and down and across in talking about Israel. But if I were Jewish, Israel would be, for me, a place I'd always be thinking about as a place that's necessary, because this anti-Semitism hasn't gone away in over 2,000 years. I have a place in Colombia, because if shit comes down here in the United States, I'm out of here, and I'll be in Colombia, right? But if I were Jewish, I'd have a place in Israel. I'd know that that's where I'm going to go, right? This is the nature of it. The bottom line is the origin of the anti-Semitism is Christians. And so it's Christianity. And so I don't have time to go into that, but it's not a very complex story, but it all comes from Christians. So, which is odd because Jesus was Jewish. He died Jewish. He was born Jewish and he died Jewish. And everyone around him in the early part of the so-called Christian church worshipped a Jew. So it's really odd that the anti-Semitism would arise in the way that it did. So the purpose of this conversation is just to seed something, to think about it. You know what I mean? To me, I'm just blown away constantly. Every time I think about it, I'm blown away. So, yeah. Okay, so thanks. Oh, no.